Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am now joined by completely different, fresh faces, Tettles, Dratnos, and Herudra. Welcome in, gentlemen. Great to have you here. Now, before we hear from them, I just wanted to quickly say that we're just going to be discussing some of the tournament aspects of Mythic Plus and how those have kind of developed. I mean, we've seen the growth of tournament play over the course of BFA. We've seen the rise of community-based events such as the DMM and the KSM that are helping grow the Mythic Plus esport. But to start us off, if you guys just want to introduce yourselves and just let me know, who are you rooting for in the upcoming KSM? Tettles, you see me go.
I got a bone to pick with you. I am so offended that you did not commend us for the hottest new Mythic Plus pushing stream and hottest community event, the Push Week Extravaganza that Dratnos and I put on.
You know what? I'm sorry, but luckily I have you here, Tettles, to discuss that for me. I wanted to save it for you because I couldn't present it as succinctly and as well put as you could. My apologies.
But yeah, MDI caster, Moonkin player, enemy of Psybear because Feral is inferior to Balanced Druid. I don't know. I make incredibly bad plays and they get linked in Discords all the time. That's basically all I'm known for.
And who are you rooting for in the KSM?
Myself?
I'll take it. Dratnos, why don't you introduce yourself, my friend?
All right, I'm also a MDI caster / Race the World First caster. I raid with Pop Tart Corn Dog, US 8th guild. I'm currently our tank. Although, if anybody would like to come and tank for us, and I can go back to DPS, please, please free me.
And good start there for the season. Okay,
I'm rooting for BDGG in the KSM because my boy Trell is on that team. Yeah,
hell yeah. And Herudra.
Yeah, I'm Herudra. I am playing for Wiping as Intended on live as our resident battle shout bot. Probably gonna be that in Shadowlands too. Looking forward to that. And I've been playing Mythic Plus basically since the release of it and playing almost every tournament that has been available since, winning what I believe was the second MDI in Legion.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, who are you rooting for?
I'm surprisingly rooting for myself since I'm participating.
Well, you know, I just wanted to check. You never know. You might, might have someone special out there that you wanted to root for, show support for. You know, no, great to have you guys here. So, yeah, we've just seen a clip as we introed into this section. We saw the Method EU, now Wunderbar, and Method NA, Golden Guardians. We've seen the dominance of them in a lot of these tournament settings so far. What do you think has kind of been like their secret to success so far, Tettles? And do you think, I mean, I know there's teams like Perplex and stuff like that are doing very well as well, but what do you think is kind of like the case of the dominance of the scene currently, Tettles?
Financial backing and amount of practice time that they're actually able to put in. On top of that, they're all incredibly skilled players who have the same motivation and same goals. But it does help a lot that they are either sponsored or getting financial backing in some form or fashion to where that they are able to commit what is effectively full-time hours and like a full-time job's worth of practice time, like almost daily into the tournament. Because to me, and I don't know about how Herudra feels as like somebody who played this most recent season, it seemed like there were about 2 to 3 teams that were putting literal like full-time jobs worth of time into their practice, like even more than full-time jobs worth of time, like insane hours. And then just the rest of the teams, they have like in real life obligations that they have to be able to fulfill sometimes, and it's like pretty rough. And then on top of that, the players are sick. Like in all these teams that are like mega competitive, the players on top of that are very, very good. So I think it's just rough in that aspect of it.
Yeah, Herudra, do you want to kind of jump in on that? I mean, how has it been for you being a competitor?
Yeah, I think what Tettles says about the practice hours is very, very much a big deal, right? At least I believe the 4 top teams, Perplexed, Deplete from Beyond, and the 2 then Method teams, essentially play and that's it, right? They have all that time for practice, and yeah, amongst them they are all amazing players. I think you can get to a point where you have enough practice that it is actually the skill between the players that show the difference. Because, like, if you compare it, especially maybe the three top teams, what I would consider the three top teams, Perplexed and the two Method teams, then is essentially consistency, because they have more or less equally good strats, maybe varying between the dungeons, right? And at that point, it just comes down to who can manage to pull these dungeons off most consistently. And if you look at the set of teams just below, where I believe I would rank myself, then we were like 5th, 6th, that sort of area with a couple of other teams. We had slightly less practice time, but the what ended up being the primary issue is that we just didn't have the same consistency in doing clean runs. And on top of that, compared to the top teams, our paths were also generally slightly slower.
Consistency is also important in practice as well, right? Like, not even just inside of like the tournament play, but like how many runs you're able to like actually form during practice to be able to make sure your strategy is on point too.
Yeah, and like jumping off the back of that, I mean, obviously you're mentioning like the more time you're putting in is the more practice, the better your routes are going to be, and that's really like the name of the game, right? Or the aim of the game is to get the best route. And so, Tettles, what do you think about the creation of these routes? I mean, we've seen in, say, season 8. In 8.3 and in what season 4, the routes are kind of just like then known now, right? Like we've had all expansion to develop these, but then even within the season, I mean, we've seen like the Ataldazar Razan snap, and we've seen the Freehold Awakening Kite. Like, you know, I think it was Perplex who first kind of threw that in. What do you think about the developments of these and the teams racing one another for this?
I mean, I ultimately just think it's an arms race where teams are literally just pulling out every single like small tactical advantage that they can even possibly get. And even still, you say that the routes are known. I feel like even from like dungeon to dungeon, I didn't always know exactly what routes people were going to go. Whether or not they thought that they could do like right side of Taldazar with like the undead stuff, and then go to Volcall, or whether they thought that they should go left side to Priestess Alunza like super early. There was always like a lot of different routing and pathing stuff that was going on in the MDI. It was just, I don't know. I feel like as like commentators, it's always kind of hard to point out even some of the smaller minutia of the whole entire thing to be able to like correctly prop up like how important some of this smaller stuff is.
There's too much happening, I believe. Like you can't just pick up on everything, right? It's five players on two teams trying to pull mobs from everywhere.
Yeah, you just have to go like meta strategy stuff, and you just have to talk like, all right, this is like the overarching decision, I think, and then it's like, I don't know how you do anything else.
Anything to win on that, Dratnos?
I just noticed we got one of my routes now on the screen. This is very different from the MDI. The MDI ones, there's like 4 times as many stuff circled as there would be in an MDI. MDI setting, there's Taldazar was down to actually like 3 trash pulls, and the rest is just all bosses and trash. I think maybe at the end it was only boss pulls and trash with bosses. It was getting really close to that. You see, like, this is what I'm suggesting for regular people to try and do, where it's like 13, 14 pulls. It's just a completely different world.
Yeah, just a whole different ball game, isn't it? And I mean, do you think we'll ever kind of? I mean, we've seen like with the corruption system in place, we've seen some, you know, dangerously high keys, shall I say, and like we've seen some very speedy Mythic plus runs for, you know, the tournament settings for, you know, MDI and whatnot. Do you think we'll ever really be as strong as we are now with corruption? Like where you, like I'm saying, where you're hitting 100% crit. Like, do you think? I mean, apart from I guess Boomkin, which is, as you were mentioning earlier today, Tettles broken on Shadowlands and hitting 100% crit naturally.
Bug spec.
Do you think we'll ever really kind of get there again, or is this the peak of Mythic Plus? I guess you jump in there, Tettles. Oh yeah, Herudra. Yeah, go for it.
I think it changes a bit. I think we're probably not gonna hit these kind of secondary scalings again. At least not in the near future. It seems like they're implementing secondary mitigation, right, in Shadowlands. But I think, and it looks like with the target capping they are trying to implement, or that they are implementing in Shadowlands, that it seems that they don't want us to play this way with major pools, which I think even going from Legion to BFA, we lost some of it. Like a lot of the classes, Boomkin in particular, and Monk and Warlock, that were really good at these pulls, all got gutted in terms of doing these pulls. All of them were played either on really high keys or in MDI settings for Legion, and we lost some of that. There's other classes that have risen to the occasion, but it seems like it's a downgoing trend going towards Shadowlands, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think corruption is. Yeah. I think it's like a uniquely powerful system. I would be surprised if we get to this level of scaling again, even if they didn't implement the diminishing returns on secondary stats, which they are implementing, which is going to make it even harder to ever get to like 100% crit again. I think that they wouldn't. I think, 1 out of every 5 or 1 out of every 10 expansions, you'd expect to see a system this broken for player power.
Weren't we close in Legion, though? Like with some of the legendaries and with like Cephas and stuff, you were hitting some freakishly high stat points.
Right. With a Cephas proc, you were getting close to where you were always at with Corruption now.
Your default gear, like Holy Paladins ran 53% crit in Legion, and that was like just base gear.
15 for free. Yeah.
Warlock is sitting like 250% haste with Flashpoint at the moment.
I can't even tell you my stats on live.
There's no way.
You guys throwing these stats out from memory. Yeah, I mean, it is interesting that they've removed corruption, which is obviously giving us all these secondary stats, and then they've gone and put on a diminishing return going into Shadowlands when corruption goes away, but we'll see how that one ends up playing out. But I wanted to kind of shift our attention then more towards these tournaments that we've been seeing, and like as I mentioned, the rise of the DMM and the KSM, and Tettles and Dratnos, obviously you got your guys' thing going on, haven't you? Season 2, by the way, when's that happening? But what do you think these tournaments have done well to attract players and attract audiences, but I guess specifically players, because I mean, like you say, getting teams to commit to these with when they have full-time jobs can be a difficult task. What do you think, Herudra, as someone who's actually playing in these?
I think part of why there's interest in it from the player base is the fact that there's and from the viewership, I should say, is that there's just not always Mythic Plus like MDI running, right? Especially probably on the viewer side, the MDI experience is not that often. On the player side, it stretches over a longer period, so you're more occupied by it. But even then, if you enjoy it and you're not playing MDI at the time, well, sure, let's play the KSM, and that you might play it in a bit more relaxed setting. MDI is sort of kind of serious because it's the big thing, right? But you can play these DMM and KSM in a bit more relaxed state, and I mean, you're still going to play to win, but like you could just show up and practice for like 3-4 hours a day instead of 10 and do the best you could and just be fine with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you guys think? Tettles, Dratnos.
I do worry that there's not enough in-game incentivization for Mythic Plus as a whole. So stuff like Keystone Masters, DMM, and MDI is like the only in-game like content that you'll have people committed to do, because that's like virtually the end-all be-all of what Mythic Plus is right now. So I think that's definitely part of it. But I mean, beyond that, I think the speedrunning aspect, like speedrunning is just fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the Keystone Masters and DMM and all the kind of community run tournament stuff is just because people love playing Mythic Plus, people love watching Mythic Plus, and the MDI is like definitely the priority for almost anybody that can play in the MDI. That's what they'll focus on, and there are teams that only do the MDI and don't do these community run things also. But if you're free, it's just a good way to practice with your team and have fun, and nobody is doing MDI because they think that they're gonna go super pro esport. Like everybody who got to the MDI got there because they love Mythic Plus first, right? It wasn't the money led to us doing the MDI because we thought it was going to be a good way to become super rich, right? It's like, oh, I'm doing a M plus already. I think I could be really good at it. Let me play in the competitive M plus thing because that is also fun.
And grassroots tournaments are very important for esports because of that. Exactly what you just said.
Yeah. Yeah, like if I win the MDI, maybe I can get a girlfriend one day. Yeah, something like that. We've seen the success of many esports. I mean, you look at even new games coming out, things like what is it, Fall Guys, Fallout Boy. That's what I was thinking of. Fall Guys. We've seen the progression of these esports coming into the scene. But do you think? I mean, MMORPGs as a whole seem to be kind of lagging behind in I guess the success of the esports industry. But like, do you think WoW can ever be there with? I mean, because we're only just getting started, right? We've only had this for, I guess, 2 expansions now, and it's getting hopefully bigger and better every time. Do you think we can see WoW being like a forefront of an esport?
I mean, I think anybody who likes to watch, Fall Guys is going to love to watch Tettles' stream. They're just falling over randomly and having trouble walking around the dungeon correctly, falling off the edge all the time. So really, there's a lot of overlap there. It's a big market we could definitely capture.
I have seen that King's Rest clip where he falls down on the bridge and just gets stuck down there for like 20 minutes. Good times. Herudra, anything you wanted to throw in there?
I think it's gonna be difficult to make it to the same size of the really huge ones like Counter-Strike and League, right? Because at least my experience is that it can be difficult as a viewer experience if you're not playing the game yourself. Counter-Strike is very easy to see. Okay, you shoot the enemy, you find the enemy, you shoot him, kinda. But even though MDI is doing and the other tournaments are doing a relatively good job at making interfaces that are relatively easy to watch, it still requires you to know the game, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I can enjoy watching a Counter-Strike tournament or a Dota tournament or whatever, but I would, like, even I playing World of Warcraft, I find it difficult keeping track of what's going on in a 3v3 arena match because it's much more complex, I would say.
I'm impressed that you can watch a Dota tournament or any MOBA without like game experience and be able to enjoy it. Because I feel like I haven't played League of Legends since Season 6. I literally have not played League of Legends since Season 6, and I'll see a bunch of new champions that I don't know what they do, and I'm like, I am struggling to figure out what I'm even watching.
Yeah. I mean,
I think Counter-Strike is a great example, though.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where like if you're watching...
Absolutely.
If you're watching World of Warcraft, it is really tough to like the UI is well designed and they keep making improvements that are great to like show information to people who know how Mythic Plus works about like what's the status of the battle res, what's the status of the Awakened pillars. But like if you're just a viewer and you just see these like random symbols and you've never played World of Warcraft before, it is something where you kind of have to be an M plus player to watch MDI to a certain point. I mean, it depends on what you're looking to get out of it, but it is not like Counter-Strike in that it's really easy to just grasp the whole thing.
Well, luckily we have an AoE cap being introduced, so we should have fewer things on the screen at once. We are going to have to wrap this section up, my guys. But just before we head out, Dratnos, I've been asked by the pieces, guys, would you be interested in coming and doing a weekly 60-second Mythic Plus weather forecast on the Peace of Mind in Shadowlands? Would you be interested?
I'll have to talk to my agent. I'll get back to you guys.
All right. Yeah, you got that production? All right, lock that one in. All right, well, gentlemen, thanks for being here. I think we're saying goodbye to Tettles for now, aren't we? Tettles, thank you for being here. And Dratnos, Herudra, you're with us for the next section, aren't you? So Tettles, thanks for being on. Take care.